Hey everybody, this is post-editing Delton, coming in to just say welcome to episode 122 of the Malthouse Games podcast. In this fine episode, we are interviewing our good friend Jesse, having a conversation with him. Jesse is a dear friend of ours, and we wanted to discuss board games with him because when we were roommates back in college, he was playing Dungeons and Dragons before anybody else that I knew. So I thought it would be good to talk to him about board games and the hobby in general and just sit back and chat and have a good time. Along with that, I wanted to give a shout-out style recommendation for you guys to go to Kickstarter.com and check out Mantle of the Keeper from Strongbox Games. Strongbox Games are a couple of guys from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We met them down at BGGCon in 2021, had a good time chatting with them a few times, and even got to sit down and demo their game there at their booth. It is a skirmish-type game, 2 to 4 players. They estimate 15 minutes per player, and I think that's actually about right. But it's a neat card-driven skirmishing game. I think a lot of you will really like it. It will launch on July 12th, so that is later this week. And I'm not sure how long campaigns normally run on Kickstarter, but if it sounds like something you'd want to check out, I highly recommend looking at it. That is Mantle of the Keeper on Kickstarter.com from Strongbox Games. Make sure to follow them on social media, and you can get all the updates and things like that. With that being said, I will let you into the episode. Welcome to episode number 122. I hope you have a great time. What? Why is it?
What's happening?
What? What's happening? Do you hear it?
The audio track?
It's weird, yeah.
It's distorted and I love it.
Oh,
We have to keep
it
it.
sounded fine on my end. That was weird.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I hope
Oh
it keeps it on our end because it
That was
like
amazing.
it sounded kind of like our Halloween where I like down tune it and stuff, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
slow and down tuned and then
And
it
it
sped
sped
up.
up. And so
Whoa,
it
weird.
sounded really dystopian, and it's funny because last weekend I told Delton, we need a 4th of July song. We need a 4th of July song, and how America has been the last week, a dystopian song really does fit with the theme of the episode.
Yeah, that was weird. It sounded perfect on my end. I was jamming.
Well, that's good. Well, I guess we'll just keep that and say hello and welcome to the Malthouse Games podcast. My name is Delton. I'll be your host today, and with me, as usual, is my lovely wife and yellow player, Haley.
And with us today is our lovely friend. And what's your color, Jesse?
I am red.
And red player, Jesse.
Hello.
We've talked about Jesse on the show before, him and Catherine. So we wanted to have somebody on the show that was a friend recently. I've been thinking, I need to bring my friends on and talk about board games because I have a lot of friends that play amazing board games. And we have hopefully, for better or worse, influenced in buying board games.
Correct. Yes.
That might be a problem here and there. So we wanted to have Jesse come on because if I think back in my head of all the times before I got into board gaming, I always remember Jesse playing Dungeons and Dragons and getting ready for it. And then I don't remember if it was before or after I got into games. You were playing the Pathfinder like adventure card game, something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember when that was in the timeline of Delton, but yeah, that game was very fun. I haven't played that in a long time. But yeah, I think it was actually right after I think you got into games, if I remember correctly.
Probably around the same time at least.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome though. But yeah, so we brought Jesse in to talk about different kinds of board games. So how should we start this off, Haley?
Well, I do like how he said in the timeline of Delton, like Delton is something that happens to you in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like puberty, it happens to you. The Delton happens to you.
I think most of my friends would agree that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did you get to know Jesse, Delty?
In college, circa 2011, maybe 12, I had moved to my first apartment off campus. And then after a little bit, Kyle moved in with me and we had a 2-bedroom townhouse. And then shortly after that, Cullen moved in and slept on the couch. And then shortly after that, Jesse moved in and slept in the recliner and him and Cullen like flip-flopped.
Yeah.
There were 4 of us in a 2-bedroom house. Given it was a good sized place if you included the bedrooms, but those were mine and Kyle's. So it was a very stinky League of Legends filled fish stick cooking home for a while.
It was a good time though. We had all 4 of our computers set up on around the walls of the living room.
Yep.
It was a good time.
It was good memories. I just remember it was the moment you hooked up your external hard drive and discovered you had a Pokemon emulator, and we all played all night
Yes.
And then we went to sleep like 7:30. We all skipped our classes. I don't think you went to work that day.
I did not go to work that day. I specifically remember that.
That was like one of those moments where everybody has those college stories of, oh, we went to this party, blah, blah, blah. Mine was like, nope, Jesse had Pokemon. That's what we
Yeah.
did
Our
the whole
party
time.
was a Pokemon emulator for 9 hours.
Did you guys beat the game that night?
I don't know. I do not remember.
I think one of you got close.
Probably.
So, Jesse, how was Delton as a roommate back in the day?
Oh, God.
Delton was a good roommate. He he was a good roommate. He was, however, very strict on what we as roommates needed to do.
By that, you mean I wanted someone to help me clean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair. Whatever. You can put it in your own words, I guess. But yeah.
Potato, potato.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
was fun though. I really enjoyed having Dalton as a roommate.
It was a good time, but man, I don't miss roommates.
I'm right here next to you.
It's different.
Yeah, you understand. It's very different.
Yes, quite.
But yes, that was around 2011, 2012. I'm trying to think, was it 2012 when we
I think it was
left
closer
that
to
place?
2012 where we actually left. So
Yeah. When we moved all out, and it was that same year later that I really got into board games. So I
Yeah.
guess that leads to the easy question: is when did you get into board games?
So I grew up playing board games with my family. Not good board games, however. But it was like, we lived out in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, just north of Durant, like 30 miles. We didn't have cable. We never had cable. We didn't have internet forever. And when we did, it was dial up. So like it wasn't usable. So our thing was we would get around and play Uno. We would get around and play dominoes, which love dominoes still. We would get, I can never pronounce this, Rummy Cube. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, played that a lot. Still, anytime I go over to my parents' house, they're like, yeah, let's bring out Rummy Cube. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then, so it's always kind of been a part of my life. And then I don't remember exactly when I started playing more newer games. Of course, I started with Catan, Pandemic, things like that. So yeah, it's just kind of always been there.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was growing up. I always talk about like Battleship was the game I played with my mom all the time, and I was the sick kid that had to stay inside. So that was what I gravitated towards. And even today, Battleship, I don't know if it's a Steam version. There were some streamers or whatever on YouTube that played Battleship, and it was this version where you could have like special powers and stuff and set mines for your opponents and
Oh, weird.
like this really nice version, and I really want to play it now.
That's cool.
And so for you, Jesse, I know you said like you've always been a board game player. What are some kinds of things that are on your shelf right now? What are some of your staples?
So I've been playing Jaws of the Lion a lot. I have the main game of Gloomhaven. However, it is very intimidating. So got Jaws of the Lion and been playing that with a friend from work. Love it. Very good. We also, I think Catherine and I, our favorite game to play together is Mystic Vale.
Mhm.
The card creation system is incredible. And then of course Wingspan. We play that a lot too. So I think those are my 3 heavy rotation games right now.
And so his sweetie Catherine is someone that we've talked about on the podcast before. One, because Jesse and Catherine have been Patreon backers and we appreciate them. But also, I think we had talked about they were engaged a couple months ago, right?
Yes. Yeah. In March, Catherine surprised me with a trip to Philadelphia to see my favorite band play in their hometown for I guess it was technically a 12-year reunion because their 10-year reunion for their first album got canceled because of COVID. So technically, their 10-year reunion, album reunion, it was good. It was a great time. And then she surprised me with a just really nice dinner. And then she popped the question. It was a very, very good time.
And who's the favorite band so everybody can look them up?
Oh, yeah, I guess I should have said that. The Wonder Years.
Okay,
uh,
yeah,
I think you probably heard them when we lived together. But
probably. I was probably in the corner going, "Get this out of here."
yeah, you were over there yelling at me to listen to Tool.
Yeah, me and Kyle and Cullen. Me and Cullen mostly were just like, Jesse, what?
It didn't convert you.
And then you
No,
were
they
like,
did not.
no, guys, terror and Kubla Khan.
Correct. Yeah, I held my ground.
You did hold your ground. I
Jesse.
applaud that.
Strong as convictions.
Always. But you realize we didn't even open our drinks at all.
Oh yeah.
We
Oh,
just
yeah.
we just dove right in here.
Let's let Jesse start. What are you drinking today, my friend?
Ooh.
So I have here Pepsi Nitro, which we really bought because some of our friends were like, "Yeah, this is great. It's Pepsi infused with nitrogen, just so it has smaller bubbles and it's smoother. It also has like a really nice creamy taste to it. It's pretty good."
Sounds delightful.
Yeah, I want to try it sometime. I've got the classic Barks root beer. You know, Barks has bite. I'm a massive root beer fan. I think it's my favorite kind of soda, and Barks is my favorite like gas station root beer.
And I have Dr. Pepper, and Delton has learned he can only bring home one Dr. Pepper at a time because I don't drink pop. I don't, unless there's Dr. Pepper in the house. And I thought that I had, so I quit drinking pop years ago, because I used to drink it all the time, and I quit drinking probably about 10 or 12 years ago, except for like one every once in a while. And then we'd bought a 12-pack for my sister, 12-pack Dr. Pepper just to keep in the cabinet. I was like, I'm going to have one night. Nope, fell off the bandwagon, drank the whole thing in 3 days. I can't keep it in the house anymore, so this is a little treat for me. My Dr. Pepper.
I understand that. Delton, you said that was your favorite gas station root beer.
Yeah.
Do you like? So it's not your favorite root beer?
No, my favorite root beer. We can get it at Pops outside Edmond, over in Arcadia. But it's from a company called Sprecher. It's out of Wisconsin, and they brew it with actual honey, and you can get it in several places I found. But their just base root beer is by far my favorite root beer. I don't know what it is about it. It's just nice and smooth, and I don't know. It's delicious, but I like a lot of root beer. That one, if I could drink it every time, I'd pick that.
I'm gonna say that root beer is also my favorite soda. So
Nice.
solidarity.
Yeah.
However, you should, if you have not, try St. Arnold's root beer.
Ooh,
Don't think I have.
not familiar.
It's made by St. Arnold's Brewing, who makes a lot of
Oh,
beer. So I
nice.
assume you may have had one of theirs. I don't know. But yeah, they have their own like craft root beer, and it is the best in the world. I swear. So
I'll have to try that sometime. I'll have to
Sounds delicious.
look for it. I'm gonna make a note in my phone right now.
I am, however, gonna ask for y'all to listen to this pop open because it's a weird sound with nitrogen.
Oh, I bet.
That was dope.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the Guinness cans that have the little rocket widget when you
Oh,
pop them
yeah.
and they just kind of bubble. Sure, you've heard that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely what that reminds me of. But I'll have to try that sometime. That Pepsi sounds good.
And so, you said that you guys like to play Wingspan, and you have, what was the first game that you said you've been playing?
Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion.
Jaws of the Lion. And so, between you and Catherine, who's the most competitive?
I think that really depends on the game, actually. I honestly don't think I've ever won a game against Catherine in Mystic Vale. I genuinely don't think I have. So she likes to be super competitive to keep that streak going. However, other games, if we play like Blood Rage, I get pretty competitive in Blood Rage. But overall, I would say Catherine probably.
Ah,
I think that kind of matches us, Haley. I feel like you are more competitive, but I feel like I get frustrated more by never being able to beat you.
that's fair.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
I won't argue.
I'm just I like co-op games a lot. So my typical standard is not to be competitive.
I could see that. So you talked about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I played that recently, at least one scenario with a buddy of mine.
Mhm.
That was just scenario 2, so it was like the very intro
Yeah.
to that. How far have you guys gotten? Have you gotten all the way through?
We haven't gotten all the way through because it actually has way more scenarios than I thought it would.
Mhm.
The initial, I mean, it literally feels like a video game tutorial. The first, I think it's 5 scenarios that runs through it, and each one you learn different new parts of the game. I think we're on 7 or 8. It's great. It took us a little bit to get through. I think it was 2. I think was the hardest one that we played for some reason. Yeah, I think the first 5 are the like intro ones, but it's great. I have fallen in love with that game.
Does that version make the full Gloomhaven less intimidating, or does it make it like, I don't know, seem still like it's too far of a jump?
No, I am very much less intimidated by it, specifically because of those intro scenarios. Because I tried to learn Gloomhaven, and that's the issue, is like there's not a entry to it that I feel is very friendly. So this was a very good just slide into it. And now I feel pretty confident. I think there's more in the actual Gloomhaven box that I don't know, but that would be a lot easier to learn now that I have played Jaws of the Lion. So
I've always looked at it and wondered, like, okay, I get why they're doing a smaller version, but at the same time, like, if somebody loves Big Gloomhaven, what's the benefit of smaller? But I guess part of that is easing somebody else in before
Mhm.
you say, now here's the real box of,
yeah,
if you want to continue.
yeah. You could also just use the Jaws of the Lion pieces in the main Gloomhaven box too. You can use those characters, and
Oh, that's cool. So it actually carries over like perfectly.
yeah.
Oh, nice. So does this mean you're also getting Frosthaven?
Dude, I'm very upset I didn't back that. I didn't, because I was like, well, I don't play Gloomhaven. Why would I get
Mhm.
Frosthaven? And then I saw the pricing on it and how much people got it in the Kickstarter, and I am now kicking myself.
Yeah.
I would like to play it at some point.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But I understand the FOMO with Kickstarter because it's a big problem. I mean, that's also why it works so well.
Yeah.
Like that's why the platform functions. But there's like recently they had on GameFound that big Castles of Burgundy edition with the fancy sculptures and the tile pieces and everything. And I was like, oh, $100, I can do $100. And then it was like, oh, 150, and everything's like painted. And I'm like, ooh, 150? That's nothing. And then I was like, I could do that. That'll be fine. And then they were like, okay, a $250 version. Every tile is 3D. And then I stopped and backed out of all of it. And I was like, I can't. They're just
You're
going
like,
to keep doing that. And I'm going to keep giving them money for a game that I have on my shelf. And this is
Mhm.
just a deluxe version. But it's
Yeah.
the Kickstarter really gets you because I spent a car payment on Rising Sun all in whenever it was on Kickstarter. And I mean, I love the game. We've had so much fun with friends setting that game up and playing, but my goodness, the FOMO's real when it's a game you want, and then when you do back it, you realize, oh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sneaks up on you.
it really does sneak up on you. One thing I will mention, because I saw this online, Wingspan is getting its third expansion with the Asia region,
I did see
Wingspansion.
that.
Wingspansion, and they are also going to have a storage box to hold all of it.
That's so good. That's so
So
awesome.
I will probably be getting that for. We haven't played Wingspan in a long time, but again, it's something I see and I go, "Ooh, I want it." But I
Yeah.
think that would be nice because we have all the expansions and there's just no room in the main box.
Wingspansions.
Yes,
Come on, Delton.
I
Come on,
know.
Delton.
Wingspansions.
Trying to
there
make it
you
a
go.
thing. It's like fetch. I will make it a thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter the other day and got me really excited. We don't have any of the Wingspansions. Nailed it.
Yeah.
But we just had a board game bar open up in Denton, D20 Tavern, open on the square, and they have the base game and all the expansions. So
Nice.
we'll just go play it there.
That brings me to my next question is, especially over the last 2 years, a lot of folks have been, sheltering in place and haven't really
Mm.
had a lot of time to get out and about. But whenever you guys do get to go play games, do you mostly prefer just to play with Catherine, or do you have like a game group that you meet up with? Like, who do you play with?
We moved to Denton right at the beginning of the pandemic, literally March of 2020. It just kicked off as we were moving down here. So the first year down here, we didn't do anything. Like, we've never left our house. We're still very, I would say, new to the area, and just now kind of like really picking up on finding friends. And like, I've played a few games with some friends that I've met through an activist group that I'm in. Been playing some board games with them, and then I've met some people at the D20 Tavern that I am running a game of Star Wars Edge of the Empire with.
Nice. Star Wars Edge of the Empire, is that one of the newer books or the newer system?
I guess it depends on definition of newer. I think it like 8 years ago or so.
Yeah, it was where like it has custom dice just to the game itself.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's its own little dice system, yeah.
Okay, so I guess for those listening that don't know, that is an RPG tabletop role playing game like Dungeons and Dragons. So this actually brings up a good spot. So I mentioned before that the first time when you were playing games before I was even into anything tabletop, you were getting ready for Dungeons and Dragons,
Mhm.
and so now you're running a Star Wars game. In terms of playing tabletop games, is there role playing versus just board games? Do you actually have more of a preference one way or the other?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I actually like just board games better because it feels more relaxing to me to just sit down and play a board game. Role playing really takes a lot out of you to really sit down, especially if you're around people that you're not used to.
Mhm.
Like this Star Wars group I'm with right now. It's just people that I haven't, played with a whole lot, so it's kind of like a weird feeling at that moment trying to like piece everything together. It's not as stressful to do tabletop RPGs. It's just a lot more mentally taxing for me personally. A lot more strategy, and obviously playing a character in itself is taxing. So personally, I like board games more.
With the RPGs, do you prefer playing or GMing?
No, I prefer playing. I do not like GMing very well. I did it. Well, that's a lie. I played Call of Cthulhu. I ran a Call of Cthulhu game a
Nice.
couple years back, and that system I really enjoy being a GM. That was very fun. But any other system, I don't want to do. I don't want to GM.
What was it about the Call of Cthulhu system? Was it just the fact that you have to approach horror so differently, or
It felt very loose to me. Like I felt like it was much easier for me personally to be able to kind of ad lib stuff in a horror space rather than a fantasy space. So I felt a lot more freedom in that system than I do in the others. Also the way that the dice system works in that game is very appealing to me. It's just D100s and you roll to get lower of your values. It's very interesting.
which makes sense if you've got a skill and you have a 60% chance of doing something, you want to roll 60 or under because that's 60% of your options, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually prepping for this coming weekend to run Haley and some friends through a one shot of Mothership, and I've been excited. And it uses a D100 system. They recently had a Kickstarter, which I of course went almost all in on. I just didn't do the version that had the T-shirt, and they're finally releasing it. They're calling it the first edition. They're calling the original the Zero because they've revamped it and streamlined it. And I think if you liked Call of Cthulhu, I think you would like Mothership
Okay.
because I sat down with the book. I worked from home on Wednesday, sat down with the book. I have the work in progress for the first edition. They get sent it out to all the Kickstarter backers, and I think it's on their Discord. But I sat down with it thinking, okay, I'm going to read through this, probably get a decent idea. And like you read 2 or 3 pages and it says, that's all you need if you want to start playing. And I was like, wait,
Oh wow.
excuse me? But it's so simplified and streamlined, and it kind of had that looseness that I think Call of Cthulhu probably has, where you don't want combat because combat's deadly,
Yeah.
and you've got certain things to keep track of, but it's not this overly complex system, and it's easier. Mothership is a very alien, Dead Space, creepy space kind of stuff. A little easier to describe things in that than it is a fantastical forest with jackalopes and elves with fairy wings or something like that. Stuff's, I don't know, it is, I could see it being easier, but I think you might enjoy it, and it makes me want to do Call of Cthulhu just from the little description you told us, just because that's what I've liked about reading Mothership and thinking about how I'm going to run the game. I'm
Mm.
like, all right, I could do Call of Cthulhu then. That makes sense.
Yeah. Funny enough, I thought about Mothership the other day when I was at the D20 Tavern because they have a copy at D20 Tavern that I saw, which I thought was very cool. Kind of to speak back on the little more freedom you think Mothership would have. I think the thing I got held back from in D&D GMing is everything in that world is so set. Like elves look this way, dwarves look this way, and I think in a horror aspect, it's just you just describe the most grotesque thing that you can, and like that's your vision to be able to describe what they look like, and I think that's very appealing to me.
Yeah, I could see that. That's something that I think is going to be fun with Mothership, and I think would also be fun with Call of Cthulhu because you just start describing weird tentacles and fish people and stuff like that, and you're
Yeah.
pretty much good.
Yeah.
I know you said like we're just now getting into gaming groups, like meeting some friends, like getting out and about in Denton. So how did you scratch your board game itch during the pandemic?
So during the pandemic, me and Catherine actually played a lot of board games. It was just the two of us. We really got into a situation of just buying almost every 2-player game we could find because there was a lot of the bigger games that we had that we tried to play as 2 players and it just didn't feel as good. after playing them with 3 or 4 and then moving it to a 2-player, it didn't feel right. So we got, Jaipur
Mhm.
and Patchwork and, a bunch of those really good 2-player games. And so we just did that pretty constantly through the early pandemic.
So what were some of your favorites of those that you got?
Pretty much those two. We played Jaipur, I think, was the first one, and we really like it because it's just so simple. I
Mhm.
mean, there's like nothing to that game, but for us it was just really, really fun. And then of course Patchwork is incredible. Pretty sure I've heard you guys say you like Patchwork, but
I've got 2 versions.
2 versions? Yeah, and then we have the Halloween version, and every time my sister comes over, we have a tournament, and the time before well, it wasn't last weekend, but the time before that when she came over, we played 34 games, and we tied 17-17 over a weekend.
God, that's awesome. Oh, we also really, really enjoy Ascension.
I'm
That
not familiar with that one. What's that one, Jesse?
So Ascension is basically I used to call it something and I don't quite remember exactly. But basically there's a row of you start with a deck of 10, you draw 5, that's your buying power, attack power, and you use that to buy or defeat things in basically the trade row in the middle. So if you defeat a monster, you get that many scoring points, and some of them you can put in your deck to do some stuff. Otherwise, you buy weapons and buy cards to play. Some of them are suits or whatever that if you play this, you get an extra ability if you play it with another creature of that type. It's just a nice little deck builder that we really enjoy.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Ascension's a classic. I've never played more than they have an introductory
Mhm.
version.
Yeah.
I played that at one point. The game that is similar to it is the one that I have on the shelf that I really love is Star Realms.
Oh yeah, I love Star Realms. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Star
very
Realms is
fun.
really good too. But I need to play the full Ascension sometime because that's Alan. That's like one of Alan's favorite games. That's the game that he used to propose to his wife, where he
Oh, that's
got with the
Oh.
awesome.
makers. They made a card. You can find it on YouTube, but they made a card just for it. So he was waiting for it to be drawn, and sure
Oh
enough, it
wow,
worked out. And she drew it, and she was like, "Wait, what is this?" And that was like the whole thing.
dude, that's wild. I can't imagine his like suspense throughout that game. Like, when is this card getting drawn?
Oh, you can tell in the video, and we've talked to him about it, that you can tell he's just like starting to sweat and he's like uncomfortable and nervous, just waiting.
Just his anxiety is through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. But he loved Ascension.
I'll have to play that. I don't think I've ever played it, have I?
I don't think so. It's heck, now you can buy like the massively super duper enormous oversized box, and
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
they've made so much throughout the years that I bet it has. If you don't like one version, I bet you can find a way to play it that you would enjoy. There's just so much to it.
Yeah, we have 2 separate versions that we just kinda like to flip-flop between.
It's nice though to have options.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So out of the 2-player games you guys picked up, were there any of them that you were hopeful for but were kind of duds for y'all?
Uh, we picked up Seven Wonders Duel, which it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, and I don't know if that's like a personal thing. I know a lot of people really enjoy it.
Hmm.
I think I saw it online, and I think it just had so much hype that I bought it, and it just really didn't fit that for me. Like, it didn't meet the hype that I was seeing online. I think overall it's fun. It's not the game I go to if I want to play a 2-player game. I would say that's pretty much the only one. I think everything else has been pretty good. Bought it, and it kind of really met the standards that we thought we would enjoy it. So
It's nice when you make a purchase and you're like validated in it. You're like, oh, I'm glad I got this. It's perfect.
we just did that recently with Santorini. Very excited. It's very fun, and the pieces on it are incredible. It's just such a nice little.
Have y'all been using the powers, like the gods' powers?
We've only done the God powers once, which they really do change up the game a lot, but they are very fun.
We've played it, like, I think every time we've played has been without them. And then the times I played with them, it was actually a 4-player game where you had like 2 teams.
Yeah,
And it was much more fun with the powers at 4 because it was so hectic. I feel like in 2 players, 1 power, if it can be kind of game breaking, not really game breaking, but it can be almost too strong. But they're a nice change of pace. But yeah, that game's just gorgeous and fun.
I fully agree. As
Mhm.
soon as we got done playing with the God powers, that one game, I said this would be much better as a 4-player game because it would just be absolute chaos. But I fully agree. There are some powers that we were looking at that we were like, this would make this game not fun playing it at 2 players because this is just I mean, for lack of a better word, broken in a 2-player game. Like, it just seems so much better than everything else. But yeah.
That's a fun one. Haley, that was the one that you first played at Gen Con, and they had the giant version where like
Yes.
the domes were like, you know, size
Oh,
of an
that's awesome.
orange, and you just had this huge table.
Yeah, and Dalton's like, we should pick this one up. And I was thinking we were going to get this big ass table, this big ass game. And I was relieved and disappointed at the same time because I kind of think it would have been cool when I found out it was little, that is.
Yeah, it was a very fun giant version. I think giant versions of games are super interesting, and I always want to play them. I saw recently they had a giant version of Suro for their wedding.
Oh, cool.
And they just, you lay the tile and you're actually acting as the Dragonstone. So you have to walk to your little spot, follow the path. Yeah, it was just like a big party.
Did they push each other down when they ran into each other?
They should have.
Yeah.
And then they had, I've seen that they made like a giant Azul at one point in time, which was expensive, which was really neat. And then Floodgate had a giant Sagrada made for them, but it wasn't something they were retailing, but it was really cool looking. But giant versions of games are fun, especially something like Santorini or Suro, the way they had it like at their wedding. It's like, oh, that's a great idea to let people stay entertained.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Allow you to push over the groom side of the family.
Yeah, just make sure you run into that one in-law that you're just not super fond of. Just be like, I'm coming after you.
But what if it's all the in-laws, Jesse?
You versus the world.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse, I have one final question for you before we move into a different section of questions.
Okay, let's do it.
And so, whether it's something like competition or creativity or challenge or something else, what is the biggest thing that draws you to board games?
I would honestly say this was whenever I started playing, when I started playing outside of my family growing up. Growing up, it was just the time where all of my family got together and we just were able to actually spend that time. And that translates really well to friends that I grew up with, where it was like if we were all really busy, we all obviously had other things to do. But, once a week we would sit down and be like, hey, let's play Risk or whatever, and it's always just been a really good way for me to just sit down, slow down, and reconnect with the people that I find important. Things that draw me to specific games, I would say the actual challenge of learning a game and then perfecting that game is always something that I like to look forward to in a game.
And so for you, it's a kind of a combination of that connection with others, but that internal challenge.
Yeah, I have my own side quest of doing internal challenging.
So in terms of this kind of not segues on, connects to that, in terms of that connection with people, do you find the more you do tabletop gaming, do you find either it or video games that you feel has that connection more?
So they both have their great connections in their own different ways. I feel like playing video games, I can be more of in person I'm I can be a very anxious person in person in public settings. Playing video games online, I feel much more free from public stress like that. I could be more myself, I think, playing games online with friends where I don't have to physically interact. But I do think that board games have their own aspect of connection where I can really feel I think I learn more about people when I'm in person playing a board game because I can like connect, oh, they think this way. And so I feel like I really learned I get an intellectual connection between people whenever I sit down and play like strategy games.
It's not just everyone running around just being like, yeah, get wrecked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not playing Apex Legends just trying to do a bunch of stupid stuff.
It's not just us playing League of Legends 24 hours a day, every day.
Yes, correct.
And Kyle's screaming at the top of his lungs. Yeah, I get that. I agree with you there. I think it's because I play with Alan from Tuesday Night Games through the Discord. We've got a little group sometimes that meet up on Friday nights or whenever someone will be like, hey, I'm playing Mario Kart. Do you guys want to play? And we'll all hop on our Switches and play games or whatever. And it's been so nice to just connect with people and like talk to these friends I don't talk to very often because I don't get the chance to. But when playing with them then in person, it is so different because it's like, I'm seeing you, I'm watching how you interact with stuff and watching how you do all these different things. And it's like you learn the person at a deeper level, even though
Yeah.
it's still a connection and you can still learn from the person. Just being in that physical realm just adds a little bit extra in terms of like
Like
you said, like an
intimacy.
intimacy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree.
Well, speaking of intimacy, are you are you ready for some questions,
Cue the
Jesse?
saxophone music.
I'm ready.
Okay, so what we're going to do, my friends who are listening today, so Delton has typed in, well, you explain. I guess you've had a number generator or something. What have you done? Because you said you're going to do something today different, but I don't think I understand.
I have a random number generator.
Oh, is that all you did?
Yes, that's a random
Well,
number
you said
generator.
you're going to plug in something to something and do something with the Dumo Flachi, and I don't know what you're
I
going
was
to
gonna
do.
make it fancier, and I decided against it.
Okay, never mind. I sound like an asshole now.
This is easy. So basically, we have answered a question on pretty much every episode that we've done of the podcast. So I entered in our episodes that I have the questions. I have a spreadsheet, a master list of every game we've covered, every topic, every question, every beer, and every guest, and I keep that in our spreadsheet. Of course, somehow on episode 72, I lost one of the beers. I don't know what happened there.
Probably spilled it on the rug.
It's just blank. But I have a list, so I thought, okay, I am just going to random number generate in that range, and we can ask you some of the questions we answered on the show, whether they be goofy or serious or whatever. And I thought that might just be, well, Haley thought that might just be a fun one. I just agreed with her and then tried to steal her idea.
Tried to make it fancier than just use my idea.
Yeah. All right. So the first question here is, what games do you play based on art?
Ooh, interesting. Okay, let me take a look here. I have this weird fascination with white boxes. Like if I go into a store and I just see a plain white box on the sides and then it just has like a weird text on the top on the front of the box, I'm like, yeah, I want that. That's the game I want to play. I don't know anything about it, but I want that.
Yep.
Like that's why I bought Time Stories, because I was
Mhm.
like, this box looks incredible. Other than that, I really tend to enjoy just really clean, simplistic art in games. Sometimes too much of it can really bog it down for me. I don't know if that's what we were looking for in that answer, but
Absolutely.
that's
like
just fine.
That's what draws you to the games. They're aesthetically pleasing to you too. And Time
Yeah.
Stories as well. Like even though the box is white, all of the different scenarios you play are really pretty as well.
yes. Yeah, the way the cards lay out in that game are just super super pretty. I have a hard time getting into like history games, or I guess games built around historical periods, because I just don't find that art appealing. A lot of that really turns me off, and I'm sure there are really good games that I would like, but it's just like it works in the same way when I watch anime. If I can't get into the animation, I'm not going to watch it. And this is the same way. If I can't get into the art, I'm not going to play it.
Well, it looks like a history book, then it's not really as engaging.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm like running through my brain thinking of all the history games and going, which one's pretty, which one's pretty, which one's pretty. And aside from like PAX Pamir, which just has its own level of awesome look.
But even the cards are very history book.
I mean,
it's mostly the board, like the
yeah.
cloth board, the little yellow, pink and green pieces. Like that's what makes it pretty.
Yeah, I mean, even though the cards are pretty, they are like legitimate historical drawings that they used for the game. So, but great game.
I need to play.
I love PAX Pamir 2nd edition. It's one of those games. I think that I just have an obsession with Cole Worley's like designs, and B, it's just really fun. It's one of those games that I consider it a great game because when we're done playing, or times like now, and I start thinking about it and I go, oh man, I want to play that game. I remember doing this, and like it makes me want to keep trying and keep getting better. And like when I think about a game after the fact, that's when I know that it's a good game for me. And PAX Pamir has been the number one on my list every time that I'm going, oh, I want to play PAX Pamir. Oh man, I should play PAX Pamir. We really need to play PAX Pamir. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Constantly.
And so the next question is from an early episode. I remember this episode well because this was the episode right before the psychics came after me.
Mm-hmm.
So from episode 8, do you or would you play with a Ouija board?
I'm trying to think if I've ever done it. I would, just because I think it's more funny to me than anything. I do like I think there are some Ouija boards that are so aesthetically pleasing that I just want to buy it and hang it on my wall. But I would play with a Ouija board. I think that would be fine. I don't really believe in a whole lot of that stuff, so it doesn't bother me to do that, but I would play with it.
Is there any particular question you'd like to ask a Ouija board?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not off the top of my head.
You sit down to the Ouija board, you go, but why? And that's your whole...
Yeah. Yeah, just why?
Just
why?
But why?
I saw something online, and as cheesy as can be, but it makes me laugh every time I see it. But it's a Ouija board rug, and the caption is, "What is the Roomba going to ask?" And it just every time makes
Oh,
me laugh.
that's awesome, actually. That's
That's
very
great.
funny.
I don't remember how.
So let's just so question number 49 is most
Okay, so this is from episode 49 from Wingspan.
most
Oh,
likely to
perfect.
bird.
We have most likely to bird. I don't know what the hell the question is. I
So Jesse, most likely to bird.
I would yes. I'm gonna say this question to me means which one of me and Catherine would be a bird, and I would say Catherine would be more likely to just choose to be a bird than a human. So I'm gonna go with that.
I'm trying to look. I
I don't think we should. I think this
No.
was the perfect response.
No, here's the thing though. Like I'm trying to look at what it actually says
Catherine would be
in
a beautiful bird, by the way.
You would absolutely.
I'm trying to look at what it says in SoundCloud on my listing, and it literally says most likely to bird. I have no clue what that means.
What?
Go back and listen to that.
I am. I'm gonna have to skip ahead.
Episode 49.
Yeah, most likely to bird. Jesus. All right. Well, these are all older episodes too. Did I say 26?
Ooh,
All right, episode 26.
another spooky one.
I don't know what game this covers because apparently my spreadsheet's all over the place. But anyway, it said, if you were to turn into a ghost, where would you haunt?
Okay, so this is weird that we talked about a Ouija board and then a ghost question came up. Your computer's haunted.
Haunted.
Right.
So if I were to haunt somewhere, that's a good question. I think I would like to haunt a music venue.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be interesting because I can just I might just push things around, like drinks off the table or push a speaker. I think that'd be interesting. As of course, no one would be hurt. I'm not a monster ghost.
Absolutely. You're not a demon.
Correct. Plus, I would get to listen to cool music.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say, is there any particular music venue you'd like to haunt?
There's a place that I used to go to in Oklahoma City whenever I lived up there with you guys. It used to be called the Conservatory.
Yep.
I just lost the name of what it is now, but
Like Club 86 or
89th Street.
89th
Ah, there
Street.
it
Oh,
is.
so it changes. At one point, it was Club something, like Club 89. Well, it must have changed, but
I actually know the guy who bought the place when it was the Conservatory. There was a band that I always hung out with, a bunch of really good friends that lived there. We went to the same music school whenever I went to UCM or ACM at UCO. I hung out with them, and one of their really good friends wound up buying it, and now he is revamped it, and he has done very well, making that a really good venue.
it was always one of those venues where it's like, you're not going to get to see these shows elsewhere,
Yes,
but
yeah.
it wasn't a great venue. Like,
Yeah, the Conservatory was weird in if I go to the bathroom, what am I gonna find in here? Is there gonna be a knife on the ground? Is there it
Right.
it could have been very sketchy at times. But it was just one of those venues that a very DIY
hmm
venue that was just super fun to go to because it was also just a bunch of underground shows that you never would have seen anywhere else. So
Free knives.
I feel like when I went, it was probably toward the tail end of it when they were getting not so underground bands as well, because I
Mhm.
went and saw Whitechapel in 2010.
Oh wow.
Which was I think it was 2010. Yeah, fall of 2010. Great show. Or I guess it was summer before college, and then I actually went and saw Mute Math there.
Oh wow.
I don't know what year that was. I went by myself. Don't recommend. But it was cool because they had their show, phenomenal show, and then at the conservatory, the backstage is through the crowd out the back of the building. And
Correct.
so Darren King, the drummer, walked right by me, and I patted him on the shoulder, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I touched him!" I freaked out. But I'm a big fan of his. But yeah, it was a weird venue. I can't explain it. I'd like to go and see it now, though. I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah, I haven't been up there since it got revamped, but I've heard it's really, really good now. So
It always looks nice driving by.
I'll have to check it out sometime.
Yeah.
Just go to a random show.
Okay, so this is from episode 85, which was for number 9. Through the pandemic, do you have a favorite online gaming moment? Whether that be board games or role playing or video games.
trying to think of, the pandemic has been so long
I know.
that that it all kind of runs together. So me and a bunch of friends from Durant got together for Deep Rock Galactic. If you've played that game, it's basically a Left 4 Dead style game where it's just you get a group together, you have a bunch of guns, you have to go get a bunch of, well, in this game you go and get materials from a cave. You're a bunch of dwarves and you each have a bunch of different powers or guns or whatever, and you basically just have to fight off hordes of spiders and monsters as you're mining these rock quarries for minerals and things. We did that for like it was like 2 or 3 months where we would just get on pretty consistently and just make these runs, and it was just super stressful because you could also just really screw your friends over if you didn't if you placed something in the correct spot on purpose. That person died, and that was just so fun to just really screw with your friends at times. That was a really good time.
I feel like those fun moments like that are always great. There was me and Brian when Back 4 Blood came out. It was on Game Pass, and there was a couple nights in a row where we booted it up and played. And I don't know if you've played that or got far into it at all. We never beat it.
I'm pretty sure that's also made by the original team of Left 4 Dead, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. But me and Brian got to the part where you're in the bar and you have to like start the jukebox and it starts playing Ace of Spades. And that was just one of those moments that I'm never going to forget because it was the most fun, and having Lemmy just screaming in your ear Ace of Spades while you're just getting run down. I don't know. That was like one of those moments where I was like, man, video games online with friends is so great.
Yeah, I really enjoy those. I mean, that genre of like weird horde, almost tower defense-esque type of thing with your friends is very, very a really good time.
They're just unique.
I can't count. Was that 4 or 5? Are you down for one more question, Jesse?
I am always down for one more question.
All right. So this one is for episode 75, where we talked about Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. And the question of the episode was, and this kind of works with you talking about Gloomhaven in the beginning episode, how do you overcome intimidation with board games?
Okay, Watch It Play is the number one resource I go to whenever I'm like, this game scares me. What do I need to do? Rodney is just incredible at explaining games to a point where I'm like, oh, that is so much easier. My number one go-to is just watching YouTube of being like, okay, somebody else has like figured this out who is smarter than me, and they will be able to tell me in a more succinct manner than me reading this book. So that's pretty much how I just find 1 to 4 YouTube videos where I can just really figure out what's going on.
All hail Rodney Smith.
Yes.
He is a very nice guy. He's also like, what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
6'3",
He's
6'4"?
Wow, is he really?
He's a very tall man.
I got to meet him once at the first Gen Con at the Secret Cabal meetup. I went over and introduced myself, and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, I appreciate what you do, love your stuff. And it's not, I mean, I'm only 5'11". It's not like I'm tall. If I was on Tinder, I'd be 6 foot, so it works out. But
Wow, dude.
right?
5'11", not that tall. Okay.
I'm sorry, Jesse. Sorry, Jesse.
For those out there, I am 5'4", so let's just put that into perspective.
But he owns the 5'4", so it's okay.
Thank you.
But he's very tall, but he's very nice. But his videos are very good. For anybody who hasn't seen a Watch It Played video, I had to use that. There's a game I picked up. It was like unstickered and just not even used from the BGG Bazaar last year, which is Sekigahara, the Unification of Japan. It's a GMT 2-player only, 2 to 3 hour, fantastic game, but it's very unique, very different, and the rulebook is good. But I had to go watch his Watch It Played. It's like a 40-minute almost video. So I have to watch it and go back and rewatch sections and then read the book and then forums. And then I finally got it and we got our playthrough. And I was like, this game's amazing. But if it wasn't for videos on YouTube, I feel you there. Some games you just have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
No shame in asking for help or someone to explain the rules, because that's what Delton does for me every single time we play.
Yeah.
That's true. I explain a lot of rules. Have you gotten to the point that somebody's like, oh, have you played this game? Or they're like, hey, we're going to bring this game out. I haven't played in a while. And you're like, oh yeah, this rule, that rule, this rule, here's how it works.
No, because I have the world's worst memory.
Ah.
And so like if I don't play a game for like a month or two, I just have to relearn it, which is an awful thing. I can at least be like, if that happens and someone's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring this game. Oh great, I remember playing it. I remember having fun. Once we start playing it, I will start like kind of piecing together like, oh, that's right, this happens and then this can happen. Like, yeah, world's worst memory though. So
Just remember one time at Brian's house, he was bringing out Kanagawa from Yellow, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's been a while. Do you remember how to play this?" I was like, "Yeah, you got to do the thing and the this and then that." And he was like, "We played this one time like a year ago," and I was like, "Sorry, I play a lot of board games. Just for some reason, board games stick to my head. The rules do, even if I don't have it down completely. I generally have to do a small refresh, but I can, for the most part, sit down and know at least how you're supposed to play it.
It's a gift.
It is a gift."
that is a gift. I was about to say, I don't know how many times I've watched videos on how to play Blood Rage after not playing it for 2 months, where I'm just like, crap.
That is one I could not sit down and tell you how to play it.
Because I destroyed you once and you won't play it again.
Yeah. It was one of those moments
You
where
blocked it out.
we scored. We were scoring certain things too early, and so it made it obvious Haley was running away with it. It's like a weird thing we were doing or something like that, and it was just degrading. That's what it was.
He blocked how to play from his memory because it was just too much.
Yep, 100%.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can we have you plug what you're doing? Because I know that you're involved in other podcasts. You have a lot of projects that you do. So tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, so first, thank you for having me. This was a really, really good time, and it's nice to reconnect with you guys after so long. So yeah, you can go check me out. You can check me out on Twitter, Aquaneer Supreme. I don't host, but I produce and edit Quantum Recast, a theoretical film podcast. I don't want to. It's a big explanation. You can go check it out. It's a good time. That's pretty much all I'm doing right now. Other than that, I mean, not a whole lot.
Have you not been streaming on Twitch at all?
No, actually, I have kind of given up on Twitch streaming.
Mhm.
Not in the sense of like it's too hard. It's just the sense of like I've kind of fallen out of love of streaming for other people, and it's just like I just want to play games for myself and don't want to stream it. So
I understand that. I think my Twitch page hosts your channel anytime you're on, so it's probably just been like the most silent page because I'm never streaming anything.
yeah,
It's funny. Well, there you go. So Quantum Recast, and I follow you guys on Instagram and I think on Twitter as well.
oh yeah. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have a Facebook, which I have never logged into because I haven't been on Facebook in 3 years or something. We also have just launched a Patreon, so you can go ahead and check that out if you would like.
Nice.
Patreon.com/quantumrecast. Yeah, shameless plug.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to put your handles in our descriptions, and we'll share it on Twitter.
Yes.
You guys need to follow Jesse and his podcast.
Thanks.
And Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed catching up with you. And I think the last time we caught up with you, we actually talked about it on the podcast. It was back in November. We went to BGGCon and we met up at Spiral, right?
Correct. Yeah, we all hung out and ate at Spiral for a little bit. I think it was right before y'all went back home, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We had all of our stuff, all of our bags, and sitting at Spiral, running off of 2 hours of sleep.
Oh yeah, because that was the night we stayed up late playing
Taboo. We stayed up until 4 a.m. playing Taboo like a bunch of 17-year-olds.
Yeah, I forgot because you drove like 40 minutes from Denton down to Spiral.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, it's a long drive.
It was worth it.
It was a great time. I really hope that we can try to get together sometime again soon because it's been forever. We'll be going to BGG again in November.
Okay.
So I don't know what y'all have going on or anything. There's a bunch of passes available, but even if not that, if we want to meet up at some point, we can figure something out.
This has been a very one-sided transaction. Me and Catherine need to go up there.
Well, it's hard too because you guys have all the animals and
Yeah.
Which you're always welcome here too. We always
Oh,
have
of
a guest
course.
room ready for you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
So thank you all for tuning in and listening to us ask Jesse a bunch of random questions about board games and things like that.
And birds.
If you want to find us anywhere, you can check us out on all social media at Malthouse Games, Malthaus Games. You can find me personally at Delton Brack, DeltonBrack. You can find Haley at
SQUIRRELYGEK.
that is at Squirrely Geek. If you have a game you want us to talk about, or a topic for us to cover, or a question for our episode, or something like that, send an email to contact@malthousegames.com. Make sure to go to shop.malthousegames.com if you want to buy our logo on a bunch of different stuff,
Like a fanny pack.
because I haven't designed anything else. Make sure to go to malthousegames.com in general just to check out what we've been doing, all of our episodes, a little bit of info about us,
Who are we? How we got in your computer?
and see how I'm not the fastest at updating, but I still update the website, so that's good to go. Like Haley said, if you want to run over to patreon.com and support Quantum Recast, you can do that. You can also check out us at patreon.com/malthousegames. So I will thank our big Patreon subscribers that subscribe at the level that get shoutouts on the podcast. So thank you so much to Allison, Alan, Jennifer, and Cliff for subscribing on Patreon.
And Jesse, thank you again for being on our show tonight. It was really fun to catch up with you. Hopefully we get to catch up with you again before we go to BGG Con. But if not, I'm ready to see you in the flesh and give you a hug again.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys again for having me on. This was a great time.
it was a good time.
It was.
So I guess until next time, sit back, relax, grab a drink, and play some games. We'll see you folks later.
Goodbye.
Bye.